The PGA Tour returned to one of the most famous golf courses in America last week, a course that hosted this tournament for decades, a course with real history, real prestige, and a renovation that players said made it better than it has ever been. And large sections of the grandstands were empty. That is not an opinion. That is what showed up in the photos. That is what fans at the tournament were saying out loud to reporters. And the reason the stands looked the way they did is a conversation that went well beyond golf by the time the final round was over. Here is everything that happened at Doral, why it matters, and why the man who was supposed to be the biggest story of the week ended up arriving quietly through a side entrance instead. If you have been watching this tour week in and week out like a real fan, you already know this moment has been building for months. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. This is the conversation the entire golf world is having behind closed doors, and this channel is going to break it down clearly. Trump National Doral in Miami has been hosting what is now called the Cadillac Championship since 1962. That is 64 years of tournament golf on the monster course. Most of that run, it was one of the signature events on the American golf calendar. Then in 2016, Cadillac pulled their sponsorship. The PGA Tour walked away. The tournament moved to Mexico City, and for 10 years, one of the most storied venues in professional golf sat off the schedule entirely. The Washington Post confirmed the reason the tour left. Trump had made comments about Mexican immigrants that created enough reputational pressure that the tour moved the event out of the country and away from his property. That is a fact, not an interpretation. This year, the event came back, first return in a decade, new sponsor in Cadillac. Gil Hanse had renovated the course and players were saying good things about it. The purse was set at a significant level. On paper, it looked like a clean, strong return for a tournament that deserved to be back on the schedule. Then the withdrawals started coming in. Rory McIlroy did not play. Xander Schauffele did not play. Matt Fitzpatrick, Robert McIntyre, Ludwig Aberg, 5 of the top 15 players in the world absent from a signature event. Golf.com confirmed that this was the highest number of top 15 withdrawals ever recorded for a signature event in the modern tour structure. McIlroy's stated reason was rest after the Masters. The scheduling context matters here. The tour had constructed a 6-week stretch of back-to-back premium events, and players were feeling the weight of it. Adam Scott, one of the most measured voices in the game, said publicly that this is an added event and that ideally this would not be the way the schedule works. Patrick Cantlay withdrew during the week due to illness. Brooks Koepka was listed as an alternate but could not accept a sponsor exemption into the event because of the specific terms attached to his return from LIV Golf. His agreement with the tour explicitly restricts him from those pathways for a set period. So the field arrived without several of the names that casual fans recognize immediately. And when those fans showed up to watch, some of them with tickets that cost $88 for a single day, what they found was sparse grandstands around the 18th green, open sections in areas that should have been full, and a general atmosphere that multiple people described as flat. The fan reactions that came out of this week were direct. One person asked out loud whether what they were seeing was a Trump boycott. Another said Trump ruins everything. A third said he would probably show up on Sunday to steal the trophy. These are not fringe comments made in obscure corners of the internet. These are quotes that came from people who actually bought tickets and attended the tournament, reported by Yahoo Sports and confirmed across multiple outlets. The TSA screening situation added another layer. The tour issued a statement explaining that all attendees were subject to additional security screening procedures. That is standard practice for events at Trump-affiliated venues due to the presidential security requirements that come with his properties. But for fans who are used to walking into a golf tournament with a standard bag check, standing in a line that resembles airport security is a different experience. Several people cited it specifically when talking about why the atmosphere felt different from other tour events. Here is the thing, though. Despite all of that, the golf itself was exceptional. Cameron led this tournament from the first round to the last, wire to wire. He finished at 19 under par, which was the lowest aggregate score at Doral since Gil Hanse completed the renovation. He won by 6 shots. He collected $3.6 million in prize money and 700 FedEx Cup points. He is now the first player since Tiger Woods to win both the Players' Championship and the Doral event in the same season. That is genuinely elite company. Young also did something during the final round that deserves to be mentioned specifically. On the second hole, his ball moved at address, a tiny movement, barely visible. He called the penalty on himself immediately, adding a stroke to his score without being asked. He told reporters afterward that your heart sinks when you see it move, but it moved, and that is part of what golf is about. He was leading by a significant margin at the time and called it anyway. His 6-shot margin of victory means the penalty made no difference to the outcome, but that is not really the point. Scottie Scheffler finished second. It was his third consecutive runner-up finish at a signature event, which is a run of consistency that very few players in the world are capable of, but which is also starting to become its own story, given how close he keeps finishing without winning. Now about Trump. He did not arrive the way you might expect a president and course owner to arrive at his own tournament. He pulled into the Trump suite at 12:15 on Sunday afternoon. Low-key, according to the Mirror's on-site reporting, he was accompanied by Kai Trump and Vanessa Trump. There was no grand entrance, no ceremony around his arrival. He watched the final round from the suite. His son Eric Trump issued a statement saying he was incredibly proud of how the event had come together. Trump himself had said earlier in the week while speaking at a separate event that the PGA was at his tournament right now and that LIV would be at his course in 2 weeks. He was referring to the upcoming LIV golf event at Trump National in Virginia, scheduled for May the 7th. The political context underneath all of this is something the Washington Post addressed directly in a piece written on-site from Doral on Sunday. For a decade, the PGA Tour shunned Trump's courses. The return of this tournament represents a complete reversal of that position. The tour is now not only back at Doral, but has LIV golf events running at other Trump properties on the same calendar. The Washington Post described Trump as the big winner of the week, separate entirely from who won the golf tournament. There is one more detail from this week that has not received enough attention. The Cadillac Championship has been absent from the schedule for 10 years. In those 10 years, the tournament that replaced it in Mexico City built its own audience and its own identity. The return to Doral means that audience no longer has a tour event in Mexico City. Players are playing a course they had largely forgotten about. Sponsors are re-establishing a presence at a venue that carries significant political baggage for a portion of the potential audience, and the whole thing was scheduled in the middle of the most congested stretch of the tour calendar, competing for attention with the F1 Miami Grand Prix happening in the same city on the same weekend. That last point matters more than it sounds. Miami in early May with Formula One in town means hotels are full, roads are complicated, and the casual sports fan in South Florida has multiple options for where to spend their weekend and their money. Golf at Doral was competing directly with one of the most watched motorsport events of the year for the same local audience. The tournament was completed. Cameron Young deserved everything he won. The golf on the course was excellent. The Blue Monster played well, and the renovation held up under scrutiny from the best players in the world. Subscribe if you want this story covered at the depth it deserves every single week. Share this with anyone who has been following the LIV saga, because this week is the moment where the power finally, visibly, completely shifted. But the grandstands told a story that nobody in professional golf is going to be comfortable with. A signature event, with an $88 daily ticket price, at one of the most historically significant venues on the tour calendar, drawing the kind of crowds that had people questioning out loud whether politics was keeping fans away. That question does not have a clean answer. The withdrawals, the scheduling, the security screening, the political atmosphere, the Formula One weekend, all of it contributed to what people saw in those photos. But the photos exist, the fan quotes exist, and the conversation they started is not going away simply because Cameron Young hit the ball beautifully for 4 days. The PGA Tour brought this tournament back after 10 years. The first week back looked like this, and now everyone inside the sport has to decide what they actually learned from it.